I don't know about you, but I find the monsters in the core rules to be really boring. I think we need better monsters. I want some new monsters, sure, let's have some of those, but I also wish the existing monsters, the meat and potato monsters that we use all the time, goblins and kobolds, orcs, zombies, giants, dragons, I wish they were fun to run, fun for the players to fight. Wouldn't it be cool if it were fun to build an encounter? You know, the actual process of picking monsters to use tonight should be fun. And I think we know how to do this. The only thing we don't know is, does anybody want a book like that? Or rather, how many people want a book like that? Hey everybody, Matt Colville here. I run a company called MCDM and we make products for your 5th edition game. This is the 3rd MCDM Kickstarter and I realize this is a little weird because the shipping apocalypse is still interfering with fulfilling the last Kickstarter, but that is slowly getting better. So if you're skeptical about Kickstarter 3 because you're still waiting for your Kickstarter 2 stuff, I get it. You can always just wait until your stuff arrives and then come back later. Even if the campaign is over, you'll be able to pre-order the book on our site. Meanwhile, we've been working on this monster book now for about a year, and we're at the point where it would really help to know how many people want this product. Obviously, that has a big impact on how much we should spend on it, and that is something Kickstarter is really good for. The last 2 Kickstarters, Strongholds and Followers, Kingdoms and Warfare, both appeal to a specific style of play. But everybody loves monsters, so this is the first MCDM monster book, and I encourage you to watch this whole video, because not only are we excited about what is in the book, but we're also excited about how this Kickstarter is going to work. But first, the monsters. I think this is everything we're good at. I think MCDM has established a reputation for having killer art, but also taking seriously the idea that the design should reinforce the fantasy. You know, for instance, you think about goblins, and in your imagination, there are these little creatures that are sort of goofy, but also kind of deadly for a low-level party, and you imagine how they might work, and you get excited to use them in your game. Then you look them up in the rules, and you're like, oh, is that it? It's kind of boring. Our design starts with the fantasy. We literally have a meeting where we figure out what is this monster about? What makes this monster cool? Why do people like it? How do they imagine this monster in their game? Then we map out both a visual design, what does it look like, along with the game design, how does it play? So our design, the visual design, the game design, is all about delivering on that core fantasy of whatever the monster is about. For instance, this is an MCDM goblin we came up with, and I personally am very happy with this visual design. But this isn't the MCDM goblin, this is a goblin sniper, just one flavor of goblin. That's how we make building entire encounters fun for you, the DM. We give you a lot of different kinds of goblins. We got goblin warriors, sort of the default goblin, and goblin snipers, goblin curse spitters, it's their version of a shaman, and more. Each of these goblins have their own abilities that make them each different and fun to run. That is the core principle of this book. The monsters can do cool things. They don't just have a weapon and multi-attack. They're not just a big bag of hit points or, damn, that's a lot of spells, right? I hate that. I hate when I want to run a dark elf spellbinder or whatever, and it's literally just a huge list of spells, most of which I'm never gonna use since this creature has a life expectancy of 6 rounds. Animal friendship. I'm fighting a paladin, a barbarian, and a warlock. I'm going to be dead in 90 seconds. What am I supposed to do with animal friendship? But also, I do not have every spell memorized, and I bet you don't either. Like, I know fireball is 8d6, but off the top of my head, I can't remember the area. Actually, it's a 20-foot radius. That's a bad example. But lots of these spells, I have to go look up some detail in another book, and that is a huge pain in the ass. We do use some spells in here, but generally we prefer to say, here are a few cool special abilities, all of them are useful, and you don't have to go look anything up. Even the lowly goblin has different abilities depending on the flavor of goblin. Not a lot of abilities, it's still just a goblin, but the goblin spine cleaver has more hit points and gets an extra attack sometimes. The goblin sniper can sneak to get the drop on the heroes, and all goblins have this basic goblin trait, crafty, which allows them to move out of your reach without provoking attacks of opportunity. And that makes all goblins highly mobile little ankle biters. Doesn't matter which gobbos you pick, they are all crafty. So each time you build an encounter, you can choose different goblins. A scouting party might be all goblin snipers and one curse spitter. Another scouting party might be one goblin spine cleaver and a bunch of goblin minions. And this is where we introduce some new design, or rather, some old design redesigned. The idea of minions goes all the way back to the 1970s when fighters got one free attack per level per round against any enemies of one hit die or less. Even back then, the idea of letting PCs cut a swath through a sea of enemies was developing. Minions are almost as nasty as a normal monster, but they are very easy to kill. In 4th edition, this meant they only had one hit point. But that don't work if you literally just port those rules over. 5th edition doesn't work that way, so there are no minions in 5th edition. But gosh, wouldn't it be cool to have a whole horde of goblins or zombies or kobolds for the heroes to fight? Even low-level heroes? Yes, it would be cool. So we redesigned the minion rules to optimize them for 5th edition. They've already gone through several rounds of testing, which means we've got goblin minions in here so your players can feel badass fighting a ton of goblins without making a bunch of work for you. Minions should be easy to run, fun to fight, and if you want to see how all of this is going to work, you can just download a sample with all of this right now. We've already spent a bunch of time and money developing these ideas, so you don't have to wonder if you would like this book. You can download the free sample with like 15 monsters in it and see for yourself. Now, I say 15 monsters, but that includes like both a generic goblin boss and a specific, unique, action-oriented goblin queen. Remember action-oriented monsters? Very popular video, very popular design. It has successfully improved a lot of DM's games. This book is the extension of that design. Lots of creatures in here come with a generic version and an action-oriented version for when you want to challenge your party with a unique enemy that can hold their own against several heroes. Action-oriented design makes it easy and fun for you to use fewer monsters, maybe even only one, to challenge an entire party. And we got 2 action-oriented monsters in the preview. No spoilers. But you know what else? Anytime I'm looking for inspiration, I go to other fantasy games, usually fantasy war games, because for some reason, fantasy war games are allowed to have really cool monsters in them, but the game we're already playing does not. Like Goblins in 5th edition, just a monster. Maybe there's 1 or 2 variants in another book somewhere, but goblins in a war game get all sorts of cool stuff like little beasties they breed and big goblin monsters. Why can't we have that? Well, now we can. We use goblins as the example for all of this, as you will see in the preview, but we are picking several classic monsters, including goblins and orcs and undead, and presenting them like factions. Each one should have a bunch of variants to choose from. Warriors, archers, spellcasters, brutes, but also there should be kobold critters and orc war machines. Why can't we have cool stuff like that for our game? Well, we can, and we're doing it. In the free preview, we got Goblin Skitterlings, these little creatures the goblins use in battle, and when I say use, I mean like throw at you. And a goblin war beast, a giant spider, which, giant spider, that's nasty enough. But this one is specially bred to be a goblin artillery platform with a bunch of goblin archers riding on it. Isn't that cooler and more fun than just like a normal goblin? You can use this stuff in your game tonight. We already designed all this stuff and tested it for months. But as important as testing is for us, we have contract testers we pay every month, and we have a small group of volunteer testers. As important as all that is, nothing beats real world use. So you folks are part of the open beta. Download the preview, read it, try these things in your game, and let us know what you think. We got a whole Discord channel just for this project. How you use all this stuff will inform revisions. So you can check out the new goblins in the preview right now, but you'll notice there's some other stuff in here. We got the Lightbender, which is our version of the classic Fey cat beast, along with a Lightbender companion. That's another big part of this book, companions. Anytime we think the PCs might reasonably want a pet version of a monster, we make a companion for it. Obviously, some monsters would be way too powerful for a PC to have as a pet, so imagine if someone hit one of those monsters with like a shrink ray. They have the flavor of the original, but they're balanced for a PC pet. This is a new player option we developed as part of the Beast Heart design, but in fact, that is backwards. We developed the Beast Heart as part of this monster book design. James and I sat down a year ago and we thought about what new rules our monster book should have, and then we went and designed and tested that stuff last year. The companion rules were part of that, along with minions. So the Beast Heart class was actually part of this project's development. But you don't need to go buy those companion rules to use this book. The rules are included in the book. They're included in the free preview PDF. You can read them right now. Now, it's not just better versions of old monsters. There are new monsters in here too, but the problem with new monsters is I've worked on monster books where it was just, let's invent a bunch of new monsters, and most of them are just too weird or slightly different versions of monsters we already have, and it's hard to figure out why I should use one over the other. I don't want to do that. I don't want to create new monsters just for the sake of creating new monsters. Any new monsters should have a reason for existing. They should expand on the stuff you're already doing. So for our new monsters, we're focusing on environments. Not like biomes, but places where encounters usually happen. You know, I've run the game a few times, and so has James and all the designers we work with, and we have a pretty good idea of where combat tends to happen. Like in the city, in a graveyard, in the catacombs, in the woods, in a cave. There's a list, right? And some of these environments are pretty universal. Most games eventually feature one or more of these. So when you're running the game and the party's in a haunted forest or a city or a ruined keep or whatever, there is probably an environment for that in this book with a handful of new monsters for you to use to create a quick, memorable encounter. I'm not just talking about new skeletons for a graveyard. No, these are new monsters specifically for these environments. Like the Corpse Collector. Is your party in a tomb or a mausoleum or a graveyard and you're tired of skeletons and zombies? Well, first, we got better skeletons and zombies, but that's not enough. We throw in this like bone mech, a big machine created by a necromancer to collect corpses. Want to try it out? The Corpse Collector is in the free preview. You can use it right now. This shows you how we think about monsters. We want more big monsters. There aren't enough normal monsters that are huge, that the heroes can like climb on top of as they fight. So, new monsters specifically designed to give you more options for the places your heroes are going anyway. Better versions of old monsters with more cool abilities and less reliance on just more hit points or oops, all spells. More versions of the meat and potato monsters so you can run an entire adventure with just kobolds for your first level party or hobgoblins for your fourth level party without ever getting bored. Action-oriented monsters that can challenge an entire party by themselves. Monster critters and monster war beasts. What does a kobold war beast look like? I don't know yet, but I am dying to find out. Monster minions, so your party can fight an entire sea of undead and feel like heroes without getting totally overwhelmed or bogging down the game. Monster companions, so your players can adopt a baby griffin or whatever. Monster retainers, for when your party manages to recruit a goblin buddy. Retainers are from Strongholds and Followers, very popular design, which we are updating a little bit, so they just use hit points now. I think every party sooner or later ends up recruiting a monster and turning them into an NPC ally for a little while until their sudden but inevitable betrayal. I talked a lot about goblins because they're the example we picked for the free preview, but we're gonna have a ton of monsters in here, including classic high-level bad guys like an evil MCDM squid dude or an MCDM vampire. Sure, there'll be an MCDM Death Knight, can't wait for that, but aren't there 3 other knights missing? Don't we deserve to see the Plague Knight and the Famine Knight and the War Knight in this book? We didn't want you to think it was all just new low-level bad guys like goblins, so if you look in the free preview, you will get to meet the Overmind, MCDM's floating eyeball monster. Damn, look at this thing. It's got a bunch of little floating eyeballs, like little satellites to send around spying on people and zapping folks who might be behind cover or whatever. This is another example of how we do things. We thought a lot about what makes a floating eyeball monster cool, and we put all of that into both the visual design and the game design. We're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You will recognize the basic gameplay. We're just trying to make it easier and more memorable. This is maybe the single coolest thing MCDM has ever made. Actually, that's not true. The single coolest thing MCDM has ever made is Zoronox, a unique named action-oriented Overmind. Look at him. He's got like ceremonial armor. So this is the limited edition mini we are doing for this Kickstarter. We love making minis. It's a huge part of our business and also part of the fun of working here. But we don't want to bake in like 20 minis or even 5 into the Kickstarter because then we have to wait for the entire Kickstarter to be done, the book written and arted and printed, before we can ship you your minis. Instead, we're going to be making minis of our monsters the entire time. Not part of the Kickstarter. We're just going to make them and sell them whenever they're done. So that by the time the book is finished, there'll be lots of minis already in the store based on the monsters in here. But we also like doing something unique just for the Kickstarter, and that is this incredible Zoronox mini from Jason Hasenauer. We're only making a few thousand of these, and once they're gone, they're gone. We'll make a mini for the regular everyday Overmind later, but it won't be Zoronox. It also comes with the eyeballs. Ooh, little floating eyeball things. I can't wait to paint this thing. So check out the free preview. If you want a whole book of this stuff, pledge now. Pledge now. Feels like I'm on an NPR pledge drive, but yeah, pledge now, because we're doing this Kickstarter a little differently. Like, we don't want to wait for the whole book to be done to let you use these monsters. There's no reason for that. The book is going to be developed in batches. We're going to work on a few monsters until they're done, then move on to the next batch. So if you back this Kickstarter, then once a bunch of monsters is done, and I mean designed and edited and play tested, but not arted, then we'll post them in an update for people who backed or pre-ordered later, and you'll be able to use these monsters as soon as they're done. In other words, if you back the Kickstarter now, you don't have to wait for the book to be done to use it. I think that's huge, and it will result in better monsters because we'll be able to tweak stuff based on your feedback. There's going to be about 300 stat blocks in here, and obviously this book is going to have a ton of amazing art. That's sort of our thing. But the reality is writing and illustration have very different schedules, and there's realistically no way we could art every single entry in this book and get it in your hands next year. So not every monster will get art. Like, do we need new griffin art or a new visual design for a skeleton? Probably not. But an MCDM squid dude? Yeah, I want to see that, dude. We like doing a new shirt for each Kickstarter, so we got this incredibly sort of old school shirt featuring the Overmind with art from Jason. I love this. I love everything about this. This shows you what the whole book is about. That is a way cooler version of something I already have. Folks love stickers, and Arcadia is hugely popular, so you'll get a dope new Arcadia sticker included as a freebie with your order. This will also be in the store, by the way, if you just love Arcadia and want a cool sticker, you don't need to back the monster book. So around 300 monsters, including new monsters and classic monsters redesigned, delivery of the hardcover book by the end of next year. If we don't unlock any stretch goals, I'm pretty sure we can get you the hardcover book before then, but if we unlock every stretch goal, then your book will have a lot more content in it at the same price, and that takes time, and next year is a safe bet. But the future is uncertain. We certainly didn't imagine COVID or the shipping apocalypse back in 2019. At this point, I wouldn't be surprised if the dinosaurs came back and decided to reclaim the Earth. But if you back the Kickstarter now, you'll get the monsters as each batch rolls off the assembly line. Now, there may be things about monster design in 5e that you're not happy with. But like I said, we're not trying to redesign the entire game here. There's a handful of new ideas in here, but some are just about simplifying the language to make monsters easier to read. Like, a lot of monsters can target a creature with some debuff that ends on a successful saving throw. Cool, good design. But do we have to say every time that creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns, ending the effect on themselves early on a success? Every time? That's a lot of words for one simple idea. We don't want to change how that works. It's perfectly good design. We just replace that creature can repeat the saving throw at the end of each of their turns, ending the effect on themselves early on a success with save ends. Then we just explain what save ends means once at the beginning of the book. That's 2 words, save ends, instead of like 24 or whatever. And since those 24 words appear over and over again, it saves a lot of space over the entire book, and I think it is easier to parse when you're running combat. Or like, some people don't like legendary resistances. Okay, neither do we. But they're part of the core design, so our monsters still have them. But we try to make them more fun. Our action-oriented goblin boss, Queen Bargnot, has legendary resistances, but they require her to do something to use it. Queen Bargnot can automatically succeed on a saving throw, but she has to sacrifice a goblin to do it, right? That's way better than just, you fail. We've taken legendary resistances from just, you fail, it sucks, to a more good news, bad news design. Like, remember the Overmind? This is a powerful telekinetic creature, so he's evolved these little floating eyeballs that orbit him. The action-oriented Overmind, Zoronox the Tyract, has legendary resistances, but he has to sacrifice one of his floating eyeballs to use it. The bad news is he automatically makes his saving throw. The good news is one less eyeball. So that's it, folks. If any of that sounds cool, this is the book for you. You probably have questions. That's good. So we're going to do a live stream here tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time to answer your questions and just generally hang out. Oh, I almost forgot. Stretch goals. This is going to be interesting. Well, the first 2 stretch goals they're pretty straightforward. If we reach 800K, we're going to add a bunch of enemy parties. Like, I don't know if you watched the Chain of Acheron, but like the Black Iron Pact or the Grim Accord from Arcadia. These are action-oriented parties with at least 5 unique characters, all with unique abilities and art. And there's going to be one of these for every other level from like 1st to 13th. Each enemy party will have their own background and identity. So that's 7 enemy parties, which means at least 35 new enemies. 5 characters in each party, 7 parties, and they all get dope art. Okay, that's stretch goal 1. Stretch goal 2 is layers. If we hit $1 million, we're going to make layers with maps and treasure hoards for all the action-oriented enemies in here. So our Goblin Queen and Zoronox and every other named villain in this book will get their own little one-page dungeon or tower or whatever with encounters and unique treasure hoards. So when you kill the monster, you get a bunch of dope loot. Each treasure hoard is custom made for the monster in that layer. Now, I think $1 million it's obviously not impossible, but I'm not sure it's likely, because each Kickstarter we get smarter about how we do this. That first Kickstarter did gangbusters, and then the second Kickstarter did less. But that's partially because we figured out we should be charging for shipping and backer kit. That meant the number everybody is watching, how much have they raised, was quite a lot smaller in the second Kickstarter because it didn't include shipping like the first Kickstarter. But also, we don't have 21 minis in this Kickstarter. We don't even have 5 minis, just 1. So there's way fewer opportunities for folks to give us money. So we're not gonna hit $1 million unless there are a lot of backers. Oh, I said interesting? Yeah, okay. So I don't know whose idea this was. I think it was Jerry's, but it might have been Lars's. This is pretty insane. If we get to $2 million, a number we picked because it seemed basically impossible, if we get $2 million, the third and final stretch goal is the campaign for North Africa. This is why I've had this box over my shoulder for months now. If we hit $2 million, we will live stream our attempt to play 1 round of the legendary SPI wargame, The Campaign for North Africa. Aren't you glad you watched to the end? I said only 1 round. We might play more, but only if we actually like it. But whether we like it or not, we will stream 1 round of Campaign for North Africa if we hit $2 million. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, there is a link in the doobly-doo. Now, keep in mind, 1 round of this game is supposed to be something like 10 or 15 hours. So this is not just like a game of Dune or Nuke War or whatever. Even 1 round of this is a major undertaking. The Campaign for North Africa is a legendary war game from long defunct legendary war game company, SPI. It is famous for being the most ambitious, most detailed logistical simulation of an actual World War II campaign, the one between Rommel and Monty, the Axis, and the Allies in Libya and Egypt. It's so detailed, which is not the same as complex. We'll see how complex it is. It is so detailed, it is supposed to take about 1,500 hours to complete the whole thing. That's 187 days, playing 8 hours a day. But that number is, no one's ever played the whole, literally no one has ever played the whole thing. Just the map is 13 feet across. What is that in meters? 4? It's 4 meters. Just the map. There's 1,300 chits in here. I own this because I grew up hearing about it. It's famous. I'm a certain generation of wargaming nerd. It was a prop in an episode of The Big Bang Theory. It is legendary. So I bought it off eBay, and it's been sitting here at MCDM for years. And every time somebody sees it, we open it up. And even like Matt O'Driscoll says, "This looks insane. We should try it." Well, that's up to you. What does this have to do with a monster book? Nothing. We just think it would be cool and kind of insane. It's fun. It's just a fun idea. Kickstarters can also be fun. How do we get to $2 million? I have no idea. I don't think we will. But if it happens, it'll be because we got a lot of backers. It'll be because you shared this video and you told your friends, and they're either 5th edition GMs who want more monsters, or they're old school wargamers who really want to see somebody play CNA on stream for, as far as I know, the first time ever. But if you are one of those grognards, I warn you not to pledge some crazy amount, because we are almost certainly not going to hit this stretch goal. And I don't want folks to pledge just for CNA and then we don't hit $2 million and then they're pissed. That would be bad. I hope you all know by now, when we make more money than we need, we don't just go to Mexico and lie on the beach. We take that money and we make more dope stuff with it. More cool stuff for you, more stuff for GMs, for players, more minis, more classes. We got lots of ideas for products for your game. So the PDF is $40. The hardcover is $70. It's going to be a big book. But if we unlock all our stretch goals, then the price will be higher once the book is officially out, because those stretch goals will add about 200 pages to the book, and that costs money. But if you pledge now, you get the lower price. There's a limited edition, a sticker, a dope new MCDM pin, and this incredible mini. And if enough people want this and we make more money than we need, then we hire more people. We insource stuff we used to have to outsource. We take on more projects for you. We have no investors, no shareholders. As long as you like what we're doing, we get to keep doing it. And we pay everybody really well. We treat everybody well. We pay our freelancers well. We have the best rates in the industry. We treat everyone who deals with us with respect. We pass on our good fortune to others. And the result is more and better products for you. that's it, folks. Obviously, I hope this Kickstarter does well because we want to grow and make more stuff for you, but also we're just really looking forward to making a bunch of new monsters for you. That is no joke. One of the best parts of working here is seeing all the new art come in or reading the new design and just cackling like a mad scientist. We want you to cackle too. Thanks for watching, folks. See you tomorrow here at 11 a.m. Pacific for a live hangout. Until then, flee, mortals!